Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Yahazek Reacts. Today I wanted to watch a video called How Games Make You Feel by Htwo. I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce that. Now, the reason I wanted to watch this is because the thumbnail had the words "It's just a game" in the title. That's literally all the context I have. I don't know this guy. I think I've actually seen him show up on my timeline before. Just never clicked one of his videos before. Not gonna pre-like yet because I don't know what to expect. Quality goes up.
Have you ever played a game that really made you feel? I think if you play video games even a tiny bit regularly, then you've experienced some sort of moment that has made you feel something. Something that's stuck with you ever since. This is a universally shared experience from people who enjoy video games. And this video I found, called It's Just a Game, is a testament.
I saw this in my timeline very recently. Holy shit, so he made a video based off of that. Oh my god, that's so cool.
Showing many emotional moments from many games all in a row. You know, this video or the literally dozens of identical copies that people have also made. You know, classic YouTube stuff.
I mean, yeah, that's what you do as a YouTuber.
These sorts of things. Moments that make you feel stuff, whether it be happiness or sadness, awe or fear. How do games achieve these moments, and how do they stick out to us for so long?
Storytelling, innit? Storytelling with visual elements. It's like take a movie, but you're the character. So take a movie, but make it even more immersive. There's the element of storytelling, so like the story itself, then the fact that it's written and revised to shit, then the fact that it's you're playing as the character, so you can get way more immersed in it. And then there's also obviously the visual support of what you're seeing, rather than just having to imagine it yourself like in a book. It's like a book taken to the extreme.
Today I want to find that out. Oh, and just in case...
And obviously books make people feel things, so naturally
you were wondering,
I can see how games would do it.
For all of these games, just so you could...
what the fuck? Spoilers for... That's a lot of games. Fortunately, I've actually played like 60% of them.
If you ask me, there are three keys to making these emotional payoffs work. The first one is a little bit broad. It's all about being cinematic. It's sort of hard to put your finger on what being cinematic truly means, but to me,
yeah, it could mean different things in different contexts.
It's all of the sorts of stuff that are synonymous with movies.
Guys, I swear this is not pre-watched. I'm just fucking the smartest man alive. Holy shit.
The camera angles and the set design and the art style and all of that stuff that movies have been doing for the last 200 years. It's not unique to movies.
Fuck.
Video games...
Man, my favorite thing ever is when I'm doing a reaction video and I guess a point in the video or way earlier in. It just makes me feel like the smartest man alive.
These things, but it's something that the general person associates very heavily with the movie industry more so than the video game industry.
Yeah, true. But not quite true anymore. No, it really depends on the game.
I mean, the average person thinks every video game looks like this.
Yeah.
So we're immediate.
But then again, most people who played games like Hollow Knight will pay great attention to the visuals, because I mean the gameplay is obviously like the core part of the game, but if it didn't look as immersive, if it didn't look as good as it did, I honestly don't think it would have garnered the amount of attention it got.
Disadvantage. To the point where people are saying games like these are more like movies than they are like games.
Okay, you know what? I am one of the people, I gotta break it, that kind of think so. Not that much, but there are games where the amount of cutscenes makes me think like, man, the gameplay is shit. There are so many cutscenes. Why did he even make it a game in the first place? It's not like I have freedom of will and I choose how I play the game. So why aren't I just watching a 3D movie instead?
It's easy to see where they're coming from.
Yep.
Cinematic moments are generally what people gravitate towards when they try and think of epic, emotional, impactful moments that stick with them from games. And
I don't know. To me, for example, again, we'll talk about Hollow Knight again because I brought it up previously. Some of my most memorable moments is, spoiler warning if you haven't played it, skip like 10 seconds, is when you first fight one of the two bosses, either Nightmare King Graham or Absolute Radiance, and you start the fight and there's a fucking title screen there, and I'm like, holy shit, That's crazy. The boss must be so intimidating that they had to add a title screen to it, like a card, like with the name in the middle. They've never done that for any other bosses.
Something more and more catered towards by the AAA market.
Like the full screen goes white with the text.
As time has gone on.
Or black and red in case of.
God of War series, what started out as a hack and slash game about murder and destruction, has been reborn as a cinematic, story-driven franchise.
Now, to be fair, in God of War, I can see why it's a game and not a movie, because in this one, you still play the game a lot. The cutscenes play a huge role in it, but I wouldn't say they're the main thing about. Okay, no, they are kind of the main thing, but they're not everything the game has. Like, being able to run around with a weapon and kill shit just makes the cutscenes that much more immersive, because you feel like you're the character doing it, and what's happening is happening to you.
With more cutscene than game, and as you can imagine, they've mastered giving you the feels.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, this was filmed almost like a movie in a way. I don't know if you guys saw like the behind the scenes for this game, but this was literally like, is rotoscope the right term to use here? I don't think so. A guy had a full body tracking suit on him, and like this was body tracking done, and like the actor, this is real time acting, not like overlaid voices like video gamey stuff.
They are visually stunning games with multi-billion-dollar budgets, and they have some of the best writers, actors, and animators in the industry, working tirelessly.
Actors for a game, which is where the whole cinema movie thing comes from.
To give you a cinematic experience, and it just works. But to be cinematic doesn't mean you have to rely solely on cutscenes.
Yes.
Another excellent example of this is the final mission of Halo Reach.
Haven't played this game.
Wolf. You watch the final evacuation ships leave the planet without you, and you get given a final objective: to survive. The mission goes on for as long as
Is that where it's from? Holy shit. I've seen this fucking current objective survive thing.
Survive.
Oh my god, that's so cool. Man, that's interesting. So I just found out a piece of internet lore that I bet most people in the world knew aside from me, but hey.
The mission goes on for as long as you can survive for, but the mission does not have a happy ending. When the Covenant finally kill you, you watch as the character you've been playing as for the entire story is taken down, after being left behind on the planet they were trying to protect. This moment isn't sold by cutscenes.
Damn, I'm already invested in this fucking plotline, even though I've literally heard it for like 10 seconds. That is great.
But instead by gameplay. You have to actually fight for your survival, even though you know it's completely futile and that you can't win. But even
that is so
when
cool.
you do get to this final mission, when you play the game, you know that there's no happy ending. You know that you can't actually win. You know full well that you have to.
But you will do your Bruh, I wish I could speak. I mean, fucking. You know, your point makes, if I want to make a point, I kind of like the idea of being able to make it through speech. But anyways, what I'm saying is, you know all this shit is going down, but you're not going down without a fight. You will do your damn fucking best to kill as many of these fuckers as you can before you go down.
Eventually. Yet if you ask most players, they'll tell you that they kept fighting anyway. You know you can't win. You know that you have to die eventually.
Exactly.
But you try as hard as possible to keep the character alive because you care about them. And this is where good writing comes in.
And why do you care of them? Well, from both writing and by being the guy to play the playing the character for so long.
If the story wasn't as impactful,
you're kind of like assimilating with them at that point.
Then this moment just wouldn't have worked. Because no matter how cool the concept is, if the player doesn't care about the character they're playing as, then the player doesn't care enough to keep fighting. And then the whole concept of the mission falls apart. Even if these cutscenes at the start and the end of the mission were left completely untouched, if the game had a badly written story, this mission just wouldn't have felt like an emotional climax at all. But thanks to the awesome scriptwriters at Bungie at the time, this actually works as one of the best and most memorable missions in all of the Halo games. And this is of course also true for pretty much every other good moment in any video game. Because this sort of thing hinges on being able to relate to your characters and their relationship. If Master Chief and Cortana's relationship was lame and made no sense, then
is her name actually Cortana?
Having this moment right here wouldn't have been something any player cared about or remembered. But even with...
Because if it is, that's fucking stupid that Microsoft used that name for their AI assistant. That's gone now, by the way, which is fucking great. It was horribly integrated.
No traditional cutscenes at all, you can still make a moment like this work. Look at Portal 1, for example. Valve games rarely take camera control away from the player. So even in a situation where the characters around you are all talking to each other and interacting just as if you were in a cutscene, you can still look around, which is why...
That is actually really cool. I have not played many games that function that way.
Gordon Freeman spends more time pissing about with a cactus in the corner than he does actually listening to anything the losers behind him have to say. But they still manage to make these excellent cinematic moments just by making the player actually want to look at the cool thing. And
yeah, because the thing is cool enough to make it worth looking at. They don't have to force you to look at it. They expect you to because it's cool enough to be worth it.
You to look at it with the level design. In Portal 1, you spend the entire game being talked to by a disembodied voice. Eventually, you escape the facility, but you're still being heckled by it the entire time. And at multiple points in the story, it tries to literally kill you. But eventually, you find her chamber, and the big reveal of where this disembodied voice is coming from is just fantastic. And despite having complete control over your...
Again, I haven't beaten Portal or even played it at all, but I've seen so much about this game that at this point, I know these plot points very generally. I don't actually know the intricacy of the story.
The entire time, you still get this cool cinematic reveal. No cutscenes required, because the door into her chamber forces this slow reveal.
Yeah, you're literally like.
Whether the player likes point. It or not. And in Portal 2,
there's not the kind of stuff you think about when you're just casual playing through the game. So I like the videos like this exist.
They do a similar thing with this moment right here. What, did you think games don't use these sorts of things to be funny?
So
of course
stupid.
They do. This one is a lot more subtle though, because they're not using level design to force you to look at the exciting thing. They're instead sort of just nudging you to look in the right direction. But there's also this moment too.
Well, yeah, I guess you could also always technically look at the wall, but like, why would you be looking at a wall or random spikes on it? Or like random traps or whatever, when there's a fucking monitor with a person speaking on it, speaking through it there. Oh, person isn't robot.
Actually, why do we have to leave right now?
This is one I remember very vividly from when I was a kid. I was absolutely shook. Nowadays,
I know, right? As a kid, that would hit so hard, man. No. I couldn't have phrased that in a worse way. There's a child abuse joke in there somewhere, and I'm not gonna make it.
The twist seems really obvious, but when I was 12, this had me quaking in my boots.
Yeah, of course, man. It's so... Games as a child just go so much harder. I wish I had more time to play random shit as a kid.
This one doesn't...
Because, like, we did actually have enough free time to play the games. It's just our parents are pretty strict with screen time. I say our because I have a brother, or two brothers.
A lot of the things that the other ones I mentioned did. But a big part of this one is the music change. Going from this happy, victorious music to the minor key, bombastic orchestra as he starts laughing maniacally. Which leads me quite nicely onto the next key category.
Yes!
Music sells...
Music, man. I think, honestly, one of the biggest reasons for me, behind me liking... okay, how can I phrase this? A lot of my favorite games take the spot that they do thanks to good music. Now, granted, the gameplay obviously plays like a huge part in what the game is in general, but I think for some reason, a lot of the really good games I really like always have good music. I don't know how that happens. And it's mostly indie games, which is, I mean, it's just like, it is what it is. Legit, I 100% agree with this point. I think music is a hugely important part.
Game. Like literally every single one.
Yes.
And just to prove my point, just have a listen.
Yes, I was literally, I was gonna talk about Hollow Knight, but I didn't want to bring it up for the 5th time because it's like I've actually talked about it too much in this video. I bring it up every time I talk about games on this channel, so I didn't want to, like, you know, get annoying with it. But yes, Hollow Knight. I'll also move my camera up here because he has the game name shot. I was actually considering doing a reaction where I watched the whole, or I listened to the whole Ultra Kill OST. I don't know if I want to do it yet, but because I haven't played Ultra Kill, so I don't know the soundtrack. And I was considering playing the game, and I'm like, wait, why would I play the game before watching the soundtrack? Am I right? Listening to it.
If a game wants to make you feel happy, or sad, or scared, or like a killing machine, doesn't matter. Music is going to be a giant driving force in how...
They straight up, music can bring the scene like from a 5 to a 10.
That is achieved.
For sure.
If the game wants you to feel like an epic killing machine, then the music will be like this.
I mean, we all knew he was gonna use this exact soundtrack for it, and yet, still. Like, every time someone talks about video game music setting the mood, like in any video I've seen so far, people always, whenever people bring up making, like doing combat music, they always turn up the fucking
If it wants you to feel terrified, then maybe the music will be like this.
Play us the Silent Hill soundtrack, come on.
If the game wants you to feel a somber sort of emotion so strong that you literally can't describe it in words, then maybe it'll go... Music is everything to an impactful moment like this. A great example I love to point at is from Dark Souls 1. Every single boss theme in the entire game is crazy, bombastic orchestral music.
Yeah, and I mean, that's how all the other Dark Souls games work, right? Or Souls games in general. They always go crazy on the music, and I mean... It's really popular. There's a reason why everyone knows Dark Souls. There's a reason there's that fucking, you know?
And intimidating.
There's a reason that soundtrack is so popular.
And
it's not just because the game is great.
Because most of the time...
It's because it perfectly fits what it has to. It's boss music. You hear that and you're like, why do I hear boss music?
You are fighting something greater than yourself. But the final boss of the game, the big bad, Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, the character the game has been building up to for the entire duration of its runtime. His music sounds like this.
And that's so fucking awesome. I actually kind of expected that. Now, I haven't played Souls games. I tried Elden Ring. It was too hard, and I didn't have enough free time, so I was like, yeah, I'll come back to it later. I knew this. I pretty much expected this to come after he mentioned all... I thought there maybe could be a soundtrack below my name, below my camera. No, after he mentioned the fact that all the music in this game is like crazy, and then it talks about like the final boss, I instantly knew it was going to be like a change in pace. Hollow Knight did that as well, not with its real final boss, but with the almost final boss, Pure Vessel. All the boss fights in Hollow Knight, like all the end game ones, they go and like there's like crazy soundtracks for all of them. But the Pure Vessel, which is like pretty much the culmination of what the game has, right? It's like this. I don't know how to describe music, guys. I'm not a musician, but it has a complete pitch shift that is like sad.
Just a piano.
It's like grand and sad. Yeah, like this.
And the sound of combat. It's
yes, exactly.
Beautiful. And the most recent Souls game created by From Software, Elden Ring, has another really cool thing to mention about music in video games. Because even the absence of music can sell an awesome moment in a game. Take a look at General Radahn.
If there's always music, then cutting it out is effectively another soundtrack.
This boss fight has really cool boss music, fit for a boss as titanic as he is. But in the transition to his second phase, this is what...
Oh, I should pick up Elden Ring again. No, well, not now though. I don't have the time. But like, I really want it when I can.
The music completely stops as he leaps into the sky, and then suddenly... He's falling from the sky! There's also another fight in Elden Ring that does this exact same thing.
That is crazy.
In the fight against Dragon Lord Placidusax. Placidusax? He has an attack where he stabs a giant nuke into the floor.
Just Dragon Lord.
And every time he does it, the music just stops.
That is fucking sick. It's just the music stops and it's just the sound of a or whatever the sound was. I couldn't quite tell because there's a lot of combat sounds.
There's also this moment in Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye. There's this house across the river emanating a sad yet ominous singing. But under the guise of darkness, you can sneak into this house undetected. But when you do, this is what happens. The silence is truly deafening, which only makes the sight you see at the top of the stairs all the more terrifying. Even in its absence, music can sell a moment better than any visual or line of dialogue ever could. And music can also be used to drum up that sweet, sweet nostalgia too. My favorite example of this that I remember so well is from Risk of Rain 2. Before Risk of Rain 2 was even a twinkle in Hopu's eye, I had already played a bunch of Risk of Rain 1. And that game's soundtrack is just as good as the sequel. And the music for the final stage of Risk of Rain 1 sounds like this.
I've heard this.
So when the official release update of Risk of Rain 2 came out, the update that added the final boss, I was in for a treat.
I fucking love when games do this. Not even necessarily if it's to a new game. I just love when a soundtrack is a throwback to a different one. Like either a remix or maybe one of the main soundtracks of a game ends up being a recurring theme, and it's like different versions of it are used for different important encounters. It's so cool when that happens. Again, Hollow Knight, Undertale.
The first time you arrive on the moon, Commencement, the final stage of the game, this is the music that the player will hear. And this gives me goosebumps to this day. And there's more of that.
Actually... No, never mind.
Sort of thing too. This is...
Oh, I'm doing the anime thing where I think of something and I don't say it. Maybe I'll say it a bit later in the video.
Song from Risk of Rain 1.
Don't skip ahead though, because I don't know. No. Double fucking Rainbow, that's a great name.
And this is Mithrix's boss theme.
Alright, no. So, okay, I finally got my train of fucking thought organized. What I was trying to say is, a lot of the music that actually sends a chill down your spine, we'll say, specifically in games, is specific. I used the word specifically twice in one sentence. Is specifically 3 times when it's a repetition or like a remix in like some really important scene of what we've heard before. That is the case in Risk of Rain, as he showed in this example. Hollow Knight with the boss Hollow Knight, like with the Hollow Knight, and Undertale with a lot of actually final stuff a lot.
Final boss of Risk of Rain 2.
Oh fuck, this game soundtrack goes hard. What is this?
This is the boss theme for the final boss Providence from Risk of Rain 1. And this is the sound of Mithrix's second phase.
Oh my god.
This is called a leitmotif, and it's basically the
that's the word I was thinking of, leitmotifs. Oh my god, man. Great video.
Of certain melodies or rhythms to signify something narratively. Things can use leitmotifs to signify the presence of a character or a theme or something like that. And as Risk of Rain 2 points out, you can even do that across multiple games. And if you listen really closely...
I was just thinking of a way to... The reason I paused in the previous time is because I was thinking of a way to explain what I thought without knowing the correct terminology for it.
This happens in basically every game you've ever played. My favorite example of a leitmotif that I can think of is from a little game called Rain World. And to be honest, this pushes the definition of leitmotif so far that I'm not sure if it even counts. But it's my video, so I can do whatever I want, and I'm including it anyway. When you play Rain World for the very first time, there's an opening cutscene, and this is the music that plays.
I remember this one. I played Rain World for a bit. It was just straight up too difficult for me. Like... It's a really hard game, so I stopped playing.
And here's how that same song...
I'll come back to it eventually, guys, I think.
This is the very first piece of music the player hears from the game. Fast forward dozens, if not hundreds of hours of playtime into the future, and you have a character called the Saint. The Saint is the final character, both chronologically in the story, as well as being the final character that the player will unlock. At the very end of the Saint's campaign, he swims up through the Void Sea, and this is the music that plays.
The cycle frontier! This makes no sense to anyone. But, hey.
This music is called The Cycle, and if you pay
holy shit, does this make me want to go back to Rain World?
Really close attention, you might notice that it sounds familiar.
Reversed. Okay. I need to hear the soundtracks a few more times because it takes a little bit of time before you actually remember how a soundtrack sounds, especially if it's one that's pretty abstract. Like for the Risk of Rain ones, the theme of the music was pretty simple. You know, it was like a specific guitar riff that you hear and a beat pattern. So when it repeated, it was pretty easy to recognize. But with this, a soundtrack like this takes a little bit more time to memorize, I think.
One of the very last pieces of music you hear in the entire game is also the same as the very first, just reversed and slightly pitched down. And the reason this is so fantastic is because Rainworld's story has very heavy themes of cycles and reincarnation, the world being on a loop where nobody can truly die. Everything is a cycle in Rainworld. So having the story be bookended by these two looping pieces of music is just absolutely beautiful. But I'm not quite done talking about Rainworld, because Rainworld,
holy shit, I want to go play that game again. I mean, I know I'm getting spoiled out the asshole, but to be honest, if not for these spoilers, I wouldn't want to come back to the game as much. So I think like it's an L willing to take.
Examples of the final key to making these impactful moments work, and that is subverting your expectation.
Get it written upside down because that's subverts the expectation, because text usually written upside down, and I'm so smart and cool and sexy IRL. That's great for you, bro.
Let's look at the Saint again. He is the last character you unlock, his campaign is arguably the hardest, and his story takes place—
oh my god, this game looks so good. Why didn't I play it longer?
Into the future chronologically.
I mean, I know why. It's because it's really fucking hard, and I don't understand what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I was so confused for my entire time playing the game, but I'm sure that's what you're supposed to feel. I should have just stuck with it,
When you are playing the Saint, you have probably played Rainworld for hundreds of hours, so you know the layout of the map very well by now. And you also know roughly where to go to get story stuff to happen. You go to Moon, and you go to 5 Pebbles. So for every other character in the game, you have probably taken this route at least once. You go up here through Chimney Canopy, and then you go right. This takes you towards this huge bridge. You make this jump, and you keep going right. Then you make it to the wall, which you then climb up, and you go say hello to your local neighborhood supercomputer. You will have likely done this as basically every character in the entire game. So when you play Saint and you spawn relatively close to this part of Chimney Canopy, you probably just think to yourself, I'll just go right and go see 5 Pebbles, and then he'll tell me where to go. Oh. He just isn't here anymore. If you've never played Rainworld, this moment probably doesn't seem that significant to you. This moment only works because it—
I feel like I should have skipped this part of the video. This is such a big spoiler, man. But you know what? No. This is gonna make me get the game, so it's worth it.
So if you've never played the game, this just seems super innocuous and boring. But when I first saw this, it blew my tiny little mind.
Fuck, man, I wish I experienced this shit for the first time. This is something that— this is the kind of shit that you'd look up Rainworld reaction to and skip to the specific timestamp in the video just to see this exact thing. Holy— or Rainworld gameplay.
Route to the Wall has been here for every single other character in the entire game, and having it not be there is incredibly shocking. And because you've played all the other characters by now, and you've seen the shocking state of decay that this entire area has been in for a while now, just seeing this absence of an area tells you exactly what has happened. The last time you saw Pebbles, he looked like this, rotting away in a cave.
So every time you come back, it's worse and worse, I'm guessing.
Age that you can't escape. And if you go to Shoreline and try and take the route to Shaded Citadel, a route that you've probably also taken as every other character in the game, you will see the aftermath of this collapse. So even if you didn't catch this shocking scenery change, you will have certainly caught this one. And the Saints campaign is full of these moments, full of moments that make your jaw drop to the floor, purely based off of taking your usual expectations and dashing them against the rocks. Without setting your expectations—
I'm like trying not to remember too much of what I'm seeing, because this game looks so
First,
crazy. Like, I don't want to spoil myself too hard.
Like moments at all,
that's why I'm not pausing to speak here too much. I'm just...
Significant pieces of scenery in your first playthrough of Rainworld don't ring any bells until long after you've completed the entire game. This is something a lot of games use to their advantage. Undertale does this quite well in the Genocide playthrough, and it functions on the exact same premise. The Genocide route is something that you can't really do by accident. You have to
you have to really fucking try, and the game even tells you, like, the game gives you lots of hints to let you know, well, hints. The game gives you lots of evidence to let you know that you are, in fact, playing the game not the intended way. Like, there's no way you accidentally do everything correctly to properly genocide.
Get the genocide ending, because you have to stand around waiting for enemies to spawn to kill them in every area of the game. Which of course means that if you are doing this, it's very likely that you've played the game a bunch of times and know a lot about it. So seeing all of these familiar moments go completely differently in the genocide route has a big impact in a lot of the same ways. Even something super basic.
Yeah, so, I mean... Okay, guys, I was gonna talk about how it's a very super simple way, super oversimplified way to put it, but it can simply be summarized as subverting expectations. And lo and behold, this timestamp of the video is fucking called subverting expectations. So, yeah, I guess that's that.
Basic can have that effect too. Like when you've killed every enemy in an area, every combat pop-up will look like this. This sort of thing can work.
And the soundtrack slows down a bunch and it plays like an eerie version of it.
But it's also incredibly hard,
again, back to the music element,
to pull off successfully. Something like this requires very careful planning, and it doesn't work if your players aren't committed to your story. My expectations can't be subverted when I had no expectations to begin with. But it doesn't actually have to be as big as these other examples where it subverts your expectations based
let's see some small examples then.
On hundreds of hours of experience of the game and its mechanics. It can also be,
because to me, a lot of those things are like, those are the most impactful ones,
done with story writing. Like how in Katana Zero, there's many references throughout the story to a swordsman named the Dragon, and you just assume that this nickname is for you, only for it to turn out that you're not the dragon. This guy is. And he's way cooler than you are. Or in Outer Wilds, where there are many texts where the Nomai talk about blowing up the sun to power the Htwo project. And at this point in the game, you've probably seen the sun blow up about 50 times by now.
So you assume it happens because of them, and then later on you find out that it's not.
So this starts making you think that the goal of the game is to stop the sun blowing up and save the world. Only for it to turn out later in the game that the Nomai didn't blow up the sun at all. They tried, but it didn't work.
I fucking knew it.
And the sun has just reached the end of its natural life cycle, and there's nothing.
Man, I feel bad getting spoiled for all these insane games, but I'm gonna be honest. After watching a few videos on, I watched a video on pretty much all of these games by now, because I spend way too much time on YouTube, and I should probably stop actually. But hey, it is what it is. I never really got like I liked watching the videos discussing those games, but I never had the urge to go actually play through the game. I just felt like, wow, okay, nice video. But like, getting spoiled like this, as weird as it sounds, makes you want to play the game more.
Thing you can do to stop it. These moments are done with the game's writing.
Because I understand, like, yes, some of the greatest moments in these games have now been ruined, and when I go to play the games, it's not going to be the same as not expecting it at all. But this is only part of the game. That's not these things don't spoil literally everything. This only spoils a part of the game.
Which I guess means it kind of falls under the
That said, I still generally think going in spoiler free is by far the better choice.
Cinematic approach that I mentioned at the start. But you know, that's actually kind of the point I want to make. These three categories are not separate from each other.
Yes, exactly.
Linked. Most great moments you've seen in games contain
I'm super glad he
more
mentioned that, because I was thinking this exact same thing.
All three. They cross over and overlap, and they're part of a greater whole. You know what? Here's a good example. Have you ever shown a friend a song from a video game soundtrack that you think is completely incredible, but when you show them it, they just think it's kind of meh?
Yeah, because they don't have the connection to the game. Exactly what I'm thinking. Like, a lot of the times when I hear people show their favorite soundtracks in their videos, I'm like, yeah, I mean, like, the exact thought I think is, I bet I would absolutely love the shit out of the soundtrack if I listened to it in the context of the game and then listened to it outside of it, and I'll be like, but there's speech impediment moment. I don't actually have a speech impediment. I'm just stupid.
Big part of the reason for that is because without the context of the moment that song appears in, the music is less exciting.
Yes.
The music alone might be really
There's a reason
good,
people
but
like Megalovania, and it's not just because of the soundtrack, let's be clear. It's because of the Sans fight.
Context with all of these other incredible
Now, the soundtrack obviously goes hard as well. And blah, 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 blah. I'm not here to say to shit on music. I'm just saying it is greatly enhanced by the game.
Storytelling devices around it, it elevates it from being a good song to an incredible song.
Yes,
it just really goes to show that the way these things cross over.
Bro, he like makes my point, but 10 times better. What is this? Is my reaction even necessary? Like, I'm useless here. I mean, everything I say is just said in a better, smarter way. Right afterwards.
What makes these things work, not just each individual piece in isolation. If you ask me, the best game that exemplifies all of this crossover being so important is Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds, in my opinion, is the best game ever made. It's not for everyone, but for the people it's for, it's truly a masterpiece. And
holy shit, I should play Outer Wilds.
Time and time again, it hits you with impactful moments that I will probably remember for the rest of my life. And because of the way the game works with the core...
I should play Outer Wilds and clip all the best moments where I shit myself.
Gameplay loop allowing you to sort of do whatever you want in whatever order. It makes some of these moments feel incredibly personal too. Let me tell you a quick story. When I first played Outer Wilds, it was late at night, and I decided to go inside of Dark Bramble, and I thought nothing of it. The rest of the game wasn't particularly scary, so I just went in there completely unaware of what was waiting for me. But it's super foggy inside of Dark Bramble, right? You can't see anything. Okay. So I used my probe, my little camera drone thing. I shot it in front of me to take pictures ahead of me in the fog. And as I took pictures from my drone flying ahead of me, I got a terrifying...
Oh, this is like what's the game called? The one where you swim in like in the tiny little submarine submerged in a sea in like on the moon or something, on like a blood sea.
Iron Lung.
Iron Lung, that's right. Fuck yeah, thanks.
Glimpse of nasty jaws.
That is straight up Iron Lung.
And dead-looking
the same concept. Wait, is that game based? Wait, is Iron Lung based off of this exact moment in Outer Wilds? Wait, let me check this. We're going big screen here. Iron. What showed up first when I typed Iron? Okay, no. Iron Lung release date 2022. Outer Wilds release date. Bro, if Iron Lung was made within 3 years, which is very possible, that exact moment, like the whole concept of the game could very much be inspired by that one scene in Outer Wilds, which, if that is the case, that is super fucking sick. That means someone was inspired so hard by this exact experience that this guy had that they decided to make a whole game using it, but like in a different way.
And I'll be honest, I absolutely lost my shit. And while I wasn't looking at my monitor, I could hear the monstrous roar of the fish as it ate my ship and sent me straight back to Timber Hearth. It was terrifying. Cool. But I absolutely loved every second of it. And it's the single most memorable moment I've ever encountered in any piece of media that I've ever consumed. And even on top of that, it's also very personal. Someone else flying into Dark Bramble might not have nearly as visceral of a reaction that I had. Maybe they're not as much of a baby as me.
But maybe I'll have that reaction to a different moment in this game. Man, okay, if there's anything I'm taking away from this video, is that I gotta play Rain World and Outer Wilds.
Or maybe they didn't shoot their probe in front of them as they flew in. Or maybe they already knew about the existence of the fish before even entering the planet.
Me.
But for me, it is the single most prominent memory I have of playing the game, and I swear that I will never forget it. And that moment contains all of these three things that I've been talking about. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's everything combined. You're right.
Cinematic. The visuals of Outer Wilds are absolutely awe-inspiring. And Dark Bramble's claustrophobic fog with nothing but the dim lights penetrating through it is an incredibly well-crafted scene for these terrifying monsters to live in. The music inside of Dark Bramble also aids in this, being a haunting drone in the background as you're eaten alive. And if you use your signal scope, you can even hear the harmonica of Feldspar being juxtaposed against the menacing environment.
See, I don't really know what this means, but What the fuck
or
is
even the
feldspar?
distress signal of the escape pod ringing in your ears in the background. And this moment, of course, subverted my expectations.
Yeah.
The entire rest of the game didn't have a single horror element in sight, so the idea that I was about to get jump scared by the toothy grin of a giant space fish was just not what I expected at all. And the cherry on top of all of that is that it's a moment that feels unique to me.
And it has moments like this in games have to have, or in media in general, have to have good build-outs, not necessarily just games. Because, well, if something just happens just to be unexpected, then, you know, we call that random bullshit go. It's just people doing things specifically to subvert expectations with no actual good reason for it outside of having that moment. The build-up needs to be there for the payoff.
Like a story that I can tell about my adventures, rather than a shared experience that everyone who played the game also...
In fact, I'd say the build-up is what makes the payoff a payoff in the first place. Otherwise, it's just free money.
Win count.
I don't know why I'm going with the money analogy, but hey.
It's marvelous, and if more games were made like this, then the gaming industry would be a better place. So, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is please go play Outer Wilds. Like,
okay, fine, yeah, I'll play it. I'll play Outer Wilds. It's funny that I said the only thing I'm taking away from this video is that I need to play those 2 games, and in the outro he says, guys, play the games. Crazy video, in a good way. Good shit. Good shit, guys. Oh, hey, my own video is getting recommended to me, guys. That I'm popping up. Whoa! Yeah. Alright, if you guys open up the description, the first link you'll see is his channel. Go subscribe to it, or his video, this very exact video. Go subscribe to it, give it a watch, a like. If you haven't watched it already, just since you've already seen my reaction, maybe you don't want to watch it a second time, maybe you do. If you don't, just put YouTube on mute and just like watch it silently, maybe with captions or something. I don't know, up to you. I'm looking forward to a new upload of this guy, because or maybe we'll go through his older content. Who knows, right? Second link in the description is my main channel. Go check it out. I'm gonna make a new video on it relatively soon, in a couple months. Do me good, right? Do my video good as well. Come on, like it and all that. Do the YouTube stuff. Help me with the algorithm. And okay, I'm tired of self-plugging now. I feel like this is taking up way too much of your time and my time as well. So I'll just say bye. I'll sign out. Okay, goodbye. I hope you stick around for the next video, whatever that is. See ya.